Okay, hi everyone. I'm Amog Chogule, and I'm a designer. Basically, I have 15 years of experience in design and different domains of designs I have worked with: industrial design, user experience design, and branding. So, uh, I'm thankful for Extra Value Card for giving for inviting me to give this short talk on design. And yep, so let's start. Uh, so basically, just to give a background, I'm a engineer, and then I did my design from NID Ahmedabad, and I work with various industries across India and mainly US. So basically, over the years of experience, I've gained an experience of working with different kinds of people, different kinds of entrepreneurs, business people, and I thought it would be nice to share some of the things I've learned along the way. So yeah. So basically, okay. So just a disclaimer that I've prepared this presentation, assuming the main audience or the majority of the audience of this Facebook Live is mostly non-designers. So if there are any designers, please pardon with me. And these are the things which you might know and which may not be new to you, but this is mainly for the non-designers. So, and basically, people who may need to collaborate with, this is for people who need to collaborate with designers in their either in their jobs or for involving designers for a particular project for growing their business. So everybody is invited. So basically, I've divided my presentation three small parts. Now, let me just be clear. This is a small presentation, so it's like half an hour. So from 11 to 11:30 is the time slot. So design as value creation. So I've always believed that design is a tool in your tool set to create value. And I think the main skill a designer has is imagination and creativity. But along with that, analytical thinking to understand the problem and designing something for other people, not just for you. uh, Artists usually create their artworks for themselves predominantly, but designers are, at least I believe that designers are creating things for other people and for their benefit to add value to other people's lives. So value creation to me is a core skill for a designer, or core thing a designer should be focused on in the work. Now, what is value creation? So if you think of value creation, many things comes to mind. So solving a problem, then creating a new product, creating a new service, improving a situation, communicating in an effective manner, like advertising and things like those, or even film. All these are examples of creating value and delivering it to people. So, as business owners or as people who potentially are going to work with designers at some point or the other, or people who may themselves be forced into the role of a designer in some situations, uh, I think it's very important that we focus on the right uh, problem or the problems worth solving. So like usually people come to us Like we are mainly focused into user experience design these days, and people come to us all the time to and they start their design brief by saying, कि कुछ it's not working, or do something to so that it kind of looks nice. So I think it's a good start, but one should look deeper into why one needs to improve things, towards what end. Because I think all problems can be solved by design, um, kind of not exactly all, but many problems can be solved by designs. And it's very important to focus on the right problems, because you may get distracted by problems uh, which may not have much impact on the whole business. And it may shout loudly, like a website looking very ugly can be a problem which shouts loudly, but it may not be the right problem to solve. Now sometimes uh, ugly looking website may not be a problem if it solves the right issues for the audience it is designed for. So focusing on the right problems is definitely something you should start with. And towards that end, I would say that uh, you should really be harsh on prioritizing. So you can apply the 80/20 principle. So basically what it says is 80% of the impact is because of 20% of the issues. And this is Pareto's principle, which you might be knowing. It applies to business all the time. So which are the 20% of the problems which are contributing to 80% of the impact on the business? So you optimize your effort in that way. So you prioritize, like you keep on asking, is this the real problem, is this the real problem? So you keep on digging deeper to try to uncover the real issues underneath. Like when you say that the site is not working, whether it is not working because it's not addressing the right question of the users may have, or whether it is very slow to download and people get annoyed and then they move on to other sites, or if the fonts are not rendering correctly. So there could be many things why it is not working. And when you dig deeper, you can really figure out hopefully what the real problem is, and then you can focus on that. The next thing is, I think usually in the industry, people, I have experienced this a lot, that people explore on the solutions directly. Like once they know that, okay, we want to improve the website, so let's get solving it. Let's make the improvements. I believe that we need to explore the problem a lot before we go to the solution space, because exploring the problem uh, can make many invisible things visible, and there could be opportunities you can map based on that. And you can it also ties up with point one, that by exploring the problem well from different angles, you can figure out what the real issue is and then focus on the main things, so that the your efforts are well spent. uh, the next thing is, you should question everything, especially, or even if it's working at the moment. Like if uh, let's say the site navigation is when you say it's working at the moment, usually nobody has told you that there's a problem with your navigation. But you should question everything. You should question proactively, without waiting for other people or your audience to tell you or give you the feedback that it's not working. Why that is important, I feel, is because uh, it prepares you for the times when it may not be working in future, or in the situations where things may not work, and that you can uncover just by thinking about why this is so and whether this needs to be so, such and such. So questioning everything, I think, as a owner or as a business, as an entrepreneur, is important. Then defining the evaluation criteria, I think, this is very important when you, when the designer goes and creates a lot of solutions after understanding the real issues. How do you know that you have arrived at the right solution? So before we even start creating the solutions, like as a owner, as a business person, you should sit with the designer uh, and define the evaluation criteria. So what the solution, what boxes the final solution should tick, that's something you need to plan well in advance, so that it guides the design process for the designer, and b, it sets a common ground for, it sets a common goal for the designer and the company which is involved in solving the problem in the first place. uh, I, I have experienced that many a times the feedback which a designer gets at the end, or after he presents a solution, uh, it's quite enlightening in the sense that, though some of the things were not discussed in the beginning, like we should have this and that, and we should also have this, or we should not capture this, and things like those. So I think the evaluation criteria is very crucial to be on the same page and make the whole design endeavor worthwhile and effective. So that's something I would definitely give a lot of importance to. Then after the designer comes up with ideas and solutions, or in the first presentation, I have suggested, like I usually say this before every concept presentation, that don't judge the ideas individually with an yes or no. Even if you have an emotional reaction towards some ideas as yes and some ideas as no, but I think don't judge them harshly, in the sense that every idea, even if it may not be practical, has something in it that can be adding value to your final solution. So and also, when you have multiple ideas, the very concept, or the very idea of having multiple ideas in a presentation from a designer, is to see the solution space, to explore where else it can go, if allowed to. And I think we can combine different ideas to come up with the final one, or we can even explore, we can experiment with uh, more than one idea at a time, and see how the market reacts or how the prototyping goes. So I think, uh, don't be judgmental about any ideas. uh, Another thing which I found very important is as a client, you can negotiate the constraints. Like designers are trained to negotiate the constraints all the time, because that's where the edge cases are, or that's where the innovative solution could be hiding. When you question the constraints, why this has to be this way, what is the reason the budget is only this much, what is the reason we cannot go beyond 1024 pixels, all these things, if you start questioning at relevant times, then you may open up a lot of possibilities which might have been constrained just by the constraints themselves. So I think, and as a client, this is very important, that you allow this negotiation, and go with that positive spirit in this negotiation. Like, I know that some constraints are hard, and if the budget is so and so, you probably don't have a choice. But just by thinking, if at all the budget is slightly more, what are the possibilities, just by looking at the possibilities, you may realize the value of those solutions, and you may convince your higher ups to increase the budget. So that's a possibility you can think of. So just a minute, I'm just checking if everything is working fine. Okay, I think there are 4 people. Okay, I get anxious about whether it is working or not. So yeah, assuming that it's working, let's move forward. So basically, yeah, so negotiating the constraints is a key component. As I said in the beginning, this presentation is for the people who would potentially work with designers and who are themselves not designers, or are not trained designers, so to speak. So basically, focusing on the right problem, questioning everything, defining what the solution could be, or what the evaluation criteria could be, and negotiate the constraints. These are the things which you can keep in mind at the value creation phase. Now, let's move to the next part, which is design as a collaboration. So I think a good design project is always a collaboration. It's not a top-down thing, because the best thing about collaboration is everybody is at the same level, sort of, and everybody contributes. Everybody has a say in the project. So basically, um, when I go to a client's meeting, I usually invite all the people who might be getting affected by the new design, and people who may not have a say in terms of the stakeholders, but who may get affected by this project. I invite all of them. Sometimes I have also invited the, um, the the kids of the client, because they are going to be like, there was a project for premium furniture design called Takha, and we were involved for the entire branding exercise, right from naming the project, naming the brand. And the owner is like around 55 years old, and his next generation, his kids, were on the verge of passing out from their respective colleges. And I insisted that those kids will also be in the meeting, because they are going to be affected by how this brand is going to evolve, and they should have a stake in this, so that they feel the ownership of taking the brand forward. That was the case, because there was a succession plan, and I suggested, and we sat all together, and interestingly, the kids have quite a different perspective on a few things, which kind of inform the project going forward. And on the way, they felt that they are the owners of the project, and that helped them to take it forward. So getting all the key stakeholders together is important. Even the maintenance guy, even the site maintenance guy, who kind of handles the back end, is to me an important person, who can give some feedback which may not occur to you as a design, as a entrepreneur, or as a owner. So get everybody who's there together. Then in this meeting, you can know each other's strengths. So as a client, you know the business well, you know your customers in a certain way. The designers are skillful in understanding people as human beings. So the psychology, what they like, what kind of emotions they go through when they look at your product or service, and things like those. So each of the team members in this collaboration has different strengths, and they should the collaboration should enhance and make use of these strengths, so that it helps the project. The designer can ask relevant questions to the owner, and the owner can give insightful answers to, like, why, the owner may say that, okay, we have tried this but this didn't work. Then the designer can ask, okay, it didn't work, but in what context? What was the when did you try that? How many years back? What was the socio-political situation at that time? What was the trend? And things like those, so you can uncover the real things when you are open to share what you know, and be open to be wrong. That's another thing. If you hold, like, if anyone, for that matter, the client or the designer or anybody, if they cling to their egos, and if they kind of stick to their truth as the truth, then it's going to be difficult it's going to be limiting rather than difficult, because you may not be open enough to accept somebody else's point of view or their ideas, and you may not accept your mistakes. That's kind of crucial to improve the output of the project. So that's another thing. Clarifying expectations is something I talk about when in the beginning, when we talk about collaboration, because um, like, a designer might have been called for to do a certain aspect of the project. The designer, as they are usually trained to, they may want to take the whole table and go deeper. But you need to clarify, as a client, you need to clarify to the designer what is expected, and what are the limits, and what are the constraints of the project, what is the scope of the project, and what is not in the scope of the project, so that the designer can focus his or her energies on the right things. The designer can also expect certain things from the client, like information, or insights about things, or sometimes I feel that within the stakeholders there are conflicting interests. So usually when you have a one-to-one meeting with different stakeholders, even within partners of a company, they have different visions and they are conflicting. At least some parts of it are conflicting at times. So it's important, to me it's very important that we bring all these conflicts and differences on the forefront, because um, if you don't confront it right now, they are going to affect the design project, and you may end up coming with solutions which may satisfy one group of people but may ignore the others. So having these differences or conflicts of interest of different stakeholders on the table in the beginning, by clarifying expectations, I think is very important to because जो भी होना है, जो भी झगड़ना है, जो भी differences है, let's fight them head on, and then come to some conclusion which everybody agrees with. Or we can agree to disagree, but at least for the designer it's important to know the differences, and how these incentives play out for the project evaluation. uh, Now, as a client, as a business owner, I think if you allow the designer to take the creative liberties when they are due, you will gain a lot from the design output, because constraining the designer too much, at least in the beginning, may be a loss to you, essentially, because you hired them for something you cannot do yourself, and that's their expertise, to imagine things, imagine weird things, imagine impossible things. And that's how they make things possible, by imagining them in the first place. So I think giving the designer creative liberty, allowing them to make mistakes, allowing uh, the bar of expectation should be such that you should allow mistakes, but you should expect great results. That, I think, is a good combination. And as designers, are a good designer is trained to ask very uncomfortable questions, because going deeper means asking the whys and why nots, and rather than the what and the how. So some questions are uncomfortable, and it may expose some of the sore spots within your organization. Like maybe some of the questions the designer, like why this product is of this color. So it may turn out that one director has a specific color choice, and the other may not like it. So this is a time when other directors or other people can voice their voices, and in a way that it's not in a non-judgmental, non-blaming way maybe, but uh, nonetheless taking it at the forefront, so that we know what we are dealing with. So expect uncomfortable questions. Now the last part is design as communication. Now a good designer is a good communicator, I always say, because it's one thing to come up with the right solution, but it's totally another thing to convey the right solution in a way that people understand, in a way that they get it, you know. So communication in terms of designers have this ability to communicate well in terms of visuals and things like those, but I feel that in any design collaboration, in any design project, the client also needs to be a good listener and a good communicator, because communication is where the magic happens. If you initially, communication is the bridge between two thinking styles. You may have a certain kind of thinking style, the designer has a different style, and bridging those two to come up with something valuable is what communication is about. um, and at times, like designers do this well, but as a client you can also understand this within your organization, that how to listen to something which is not said, reading between the lines, you know. So your employees may have a feedback which they may not feel comfortable to share with you because you are the boss, but being sensitive to that part is something which will tremendously help the organization. So that's important. And finally, how to give and receive feedback well. So feedback is a great mechanism to improve upon a solution, and it's crucial how you receive a feedback without feeling like a rejection or a criticism. And giving good feedback is also equally important, without belittling the efforts of somebody, but focusing on the core point you're trying to make to improve the solution. So that's about the design of communication. Now I think we are almost half an hour into this, and yeah, so if anyone has any questions, you can ask me. And thank you for giving the time, giving your attention to this. And you can reach me at the email address amog@neodes.in anytime. If you have any queries, if you want to involve us in discussing a design project, etc., you can always reach us. And I always say that my first meeting is to decide whether we are a good fit, because not all the clients and all the designers are good fits. So it's important to keep that in mind in the beginning. And sometimes I have even told clients that this may not be the right time to invest in branding, because you need to figure out figure out the other most important things. So that also is something which I feel is a moral responsibility of a designer, to kind of not milk the client as much as possible, but to give them the real service of design. I think that's about